I'm Kim from Lamp Early On. Before we get into the video, I just wanted to mention something really fun that we will be doing. So I know the pandemic has hit really hard for all of us, especially around the socializing piece. But cooking is a great way to bring people and communities together, which is why if you comment down below on our Facebook page of this video, or you Facebook message us, or you email us a recipe that you would like us to cook on this series, then we will be able to do it for you. So it could be any recipe. It could be maybe like a childhood recipe that you liked growing up, or maybe it's something that you want to try with you and your little one. And as always, we will make that recipe something that you and your little one can do at home together. We can't see each other, and I always love potlucks and trying new foods from everybody. We won't be able to do that in person, but we can at least do that virtually. So if you're watching this on our YouTube page, in the description box, if you're not already following us on Facebook, go ahead and click on that link, and then it'll take you straight to our Facebook page. Find this video and comment in our Facebook page a recipe that you would really like. If you're not comfortable with that, or you want to surprise everyone, you can also message us on our Facebook page. If you don't have Facebook, then we also have our email in the description box on our YouTube channel. If you're watching this through our Facebook page, just leave a comment below, Facebook message us, or email. But let's get started. So today we are going to be making some really yummy, fluffy, soft milk bread. So milk bread is what I grew up eating. So this is my childhood recipe that I love, and I love that I get to share it with all of you guys. So growing up, we didn't eat a lot of bread, especially white bread, but if we did, it was these fluffy, soft, yummy milk bread. It's of Japanese origin, but a lot of Chinese bakeries sell them as well. They're a little bit sweet, but super fluffy, super light. So it's just a few simple ingredients. It will take a little bit long, so if you're planning on eating this in the afternoon, I would probably bake it the day before. It's quite a lengthy process, but that's only because you have to wait for the dough to kind of ferment a little bit. But the process is super easy. But first, what we always do on these videos is that's right, we wash our table first, and then we wash our hands. So, go ahead, my friends, if you're helping at home, go ahead and make sure, this is really important, that your countertop or your table, wherever you're doing this recipe today, is super, super clean. And throughout the video, we're going to be washing our hands a lot today. But our counter is now clean, so let's wash our hands. Alright, my friends, so as always, we have to wash our hands for 20 seconds before we cook or bake. So let's wet our hands and grab some soap, and now let's sing our hand washing song. Ready? Scrub the palms, scrub the palms, between the fingers, wash the back, twirl the tips around, scrub them upside down, thumb attack, thumb attack. Good job, my friends. So now, let's wash it off. Wash off all the soap. And grab your towel or whatever you are using, and we are now ready to cook. All right, so now that our counter is clean, our hands are clean, we are ready to bake. So what you're going to need is 2 cups of either all-purpose flour or bread flour. Bread flour is better, but today I'm using all-purpose flour. I have in this pot already, it's 2/3 cup plus 1 tablespoon of milk, and I added 3 grams of yeast into here, and this is warm milk, so it can't be too hot, but it shouldn't be cool either, so it has to be warm milk, and I put in the yeast, and I've let it sit in here for 10 minutes, so now it's ready to go. We're also going to need some sugar, some salt, and in here I have 1.5 tablespoons of unsalted butter. I'm gonna leave this to the side because we're not gonna need this right now, but you want this to be room temperature so that it's nice and soft and spreadable, and you'll see why a little later on, but we don't need this right now, so I'm gonna put this to the side. And I have my phone, which is gonna act as my timer today, and you'll see why in a minute. You don't need the timer, but because where I am right now in this room, I don't see a clock, so that's why I have my timer. So, and then a little sifter, I have spoons, and I have, this is a pizza baking pan, but usually when I make this dough, and you'll see why, I don't really like to put it on top of my counter because it just gets super tricky to wash my counter at the end of the day. So I like to knead the dough on either a baking tray or a cutting board. Today I'm using this pizza tray. But so I have my warm milk plus yeast that has been sitting here for 10 minutes, and I'm going to sift in 2 cups of my all-purpose flour. And while I'm going to sift that, I'm going to add in 3 tablespoons of sugar. You can use white sugar or brown sugar. If you're using brown sugar, the color of the bread will obviously change. But either one is nice. 2 and 3. I'm not going to add the salt just yet, because if you add the salt now, it'll actually ruin the yeast, and it won't work properly anymore. And if it spills on the side, that's okay. So we're going to wait before we add the salt. What we're going to do now is we're going to mix. Make sure the milk yeast has been incorporated. And like I mentioned, the reason you don't want to put in the salt just yet is because you might actually ruin the yeast and then it won't rise. So now that it's incorporated, I'm going to add 1/2 teaspoon of salt. If I can get it in there. There we go. A little bit more. Okay. So now we are going to mix. And this is where the timer will come in handy. So, you're probably going to be tempted to put more flour onto your baking tray. So, 10 minutes on the clock. try to resist adding more flour. You do not want to do that, which is why if you spill some of the flour on your countertop or on your baking tray, it's okay. We are going to knead the dough for 10 minutes, and this is important, especially if you don't have a stand mixer. I don't have a stand mixer at home, so I do all of this by hand, which is why it is so important. So when you're kneading this dough, you actually, once you've gathered it all together like this, this is a bit of a sticky dough, but that's okay. You want to stretch it out and fold. So that's how you're going to knead it. And I have my cloth here. So if it's a bit of a sticky dough, that's okay. If it's a bit of a dry dough, then go ahead, add more milk to it. But you do want it to be a sticky dough, which is why you don't want it to add more flour to it. Also, if you're going to be using a baking pan or a cutting board like this, make sure that it is nice and dry. You don't want to add more moisture than you have to. All right, so we're going to keep going, keep kneading, and this takes 10 minutes, but the reason we're doing it for 10 minutes is so that you can really get the smooth texture. So at first it doesn't look like much, but then as you keep kneading it, it gets a little bit stickier. So that's why if you're planning on adding more flour to it, more milk to it, then just wait until you're almost done the 10 minutes, because when I started this dough wasn't that sticky or that wet, but as I continue to work it out, it's getting a little bit stickier. So, and I love baking bread, especially if I've had a tough day, because you actually want to be a little bit vigorous with this, and then you drop it, stretch it, fold it, stretch it again, and then kind of smack it onto your countertop. Baking, especially this recipe, is a great thing to do with your little one, because they can do most of the steps with you. The only thing they wouldn't be able to do, obviously, is putting this in the oven or taking it out of the oven. But if you want, you can give them a little piece of the dough and then get them to knead it out with you. And then later on when we shape it, it's really fun. You guys can try to shape it as much as you want. So again, remember, stretch it out, fold it, stretch it out a little bit more, and then slap it on the countertop. So, like I said, it's a great way to kind of get out all your frustrations if you've had a particularly tough day. This is also quite a lot of work because the dough is getting harder to manipulate and to maneuver. So if you don't do home workouts, cooking is another great way. Again, if you have a stand mixer, just let it go for like 5 minutes. But I know most of us at home don't have a stand mixer. I also don't have a stand mixer, so I do this all by hand. So you really want to stretch and fold the dough. And someone told me this. It's because it will help strengthen the dough and the gluten that's in the dough. It'll also release any carbon dioxide that is formed during fermentation, obviously not right now, but like later on. And then it also will help equalize the dough's temperature, so when you go to bake it, there's not any hot spots. So it sounds a little violent, but I swear this is a necessary step. So if you're going to heat the milk in our earlier step, I usually like to put it in the microwave at 30-second intervals. And that's really just to kind of help make sure that I'm not getting it too hot. But for today, I put it on the stovetop because I'm going to reuse the pot. Also, less working for us. So as you can see, because I've been kneading it for 10 minutes, the dough is getting so much softer, and this is the consistency that you want, which is why I said to hold off before you add extra milk, because before, when we started, the dough was looking a little dry, but as we've been kneading it, we have about 30 seconds left of kneading. It's gotten nice and smooth, and we also want to stretch out the dough to test to see if the gluten is working, if the yeast is working, to kind of also strengthen it. So once we are done kneading the dough, we are going to put it back into the pot or the bowl that you use to mix it in, and we're going to let it rest for about 10 minutes. Oh. Okay, so I'm going to knead it for a few more seconds and then shape it. Stretch it out, shape it. So I'm going to put it back in here, and I will cover it for 10 minutes. I'm just using this lid. You can also put a warm towel over it or plastic wrap. We're going to let it sit for 10 minutes. Alright, so our dough has been resting for 10 minutes. So we're going to take it out. And it is now definitely a lot softer. So while we were doing the 10 minutes, I went and I washed my hands again. And I went and I re-washed this board. So once you knead it out a couple of times, we are going to be using our room temperature butter. Again, this is 1.5 tablespoons. And this is why you want it to be room temperature, because you're going to smear it all over your dough. Again, your little one can help you with all of these steps. That is the beauty of this recipe. Again, the only thing they can't do is anything that has to do with the oven, or the stove, but they can definitely do this part. And we are going to put 10 minutes back onto our timer. So let's get our timer out. I cleaned my phone, so don't worry. So we have 10 minutes on the clock. I'm gonna hit start. This is gonna get really messy, and what you're gonna do is you're going to want to fold the butter into the dough, and you're gonna get butter all over your hands, and your little one is gonna get butter all over their hands. But it's okay, because again, as you keep kneading it, it'll start to incorporate. So for now, it's gonna get all over the pan too, which again is why I like putting the pan in. At first, it's gonna look like this, where it's like it's not wanting to stick together, but keep kneading it, because eventually, usually around the 5-minute mark of kneading it, that's when it starts to really incorporate itself. But for the meantime, just keep persevering. So keep trying to stretch it out and folding it, despite its butteriness. So, okay, I like to kind of punch it a little bit too, not too much, just to really incorporate the dough into it, because as you can see, it's like not really incorporating, but it's okay. Your little one is gonna love doing this, especially if they like Play-Doh. They are definitely gonna like this, because right now it's feeling like super soft Play-Doh. So while you're cooking with your little one, it's a great way to start talking about what they're feeling on their hands, the smell, sight, the sound, because as we all know, cooking is a very sensory driven thing as well. And when you talk and kind of try to develop your little one's sensory play and sensory development, it really helps them with their language, because as you cook, this dough, for example, right now is feeling slimy because of all the butter that's on our hand, and that helps them create new words, because you can tell them, like, if it's a new word for them, or if your little one is just starting to talk, being like, ooh, this dough feels slimy now. You can talk about smell. So for example, right now, because of the yeast, it smells like a really yummy bakery. It smells like bread. So you can be like, it smells good in here. What do you think it smells like? Asking them open-ended questions. See, we are now in the 3-minute mark of kneading, and the butter is now all incorporated, as you can see. And now it's getting easier to kind of stretch and knead the dough. So again, like always, stretch, fold, stretch, fold. Once your butter is fully incorporated, we're going to be doing I like to call it the slap dough, where you throw the dough onto your surface. Again, that's really to kind of get out all of the little air bubble pockets. But yeah, so as you baking is a really great way. If you're doing other recipes, like for example, cinnamon is such a great smell, and it's a very specific smell too. Oops. Oh dear. So I have a little bit of butter on the pan. Make sure you grab all the butter, because the butter is what really is going to make this dough smooth. All right, so yeah, so talk to your little ones about what they're feeling, because right now, even the texture of the dough has now changed. So when we started it with the butter, it felt slimy because of all that butter that's on it. But now that the butter has been incorporated into it, it now feels smooth. It no longer feels slimy. It's also not sticky anymore. When we first kneaded this dough 10 minutes ago, it was sticky. At the beginning it was a little dry, and then it ended up being sticky. So those are some really great descriptive words you can use with your little one. Also, again, that also touches upon texture, language skills. Like I mentioned before, I bake this bread recipe when I'm feeling a little frustrated, because this is quite vigorous work. So this recipe can also be used as like an emotional regulation tool. Also, I find when I'm cooking, conversations happen, especially at my house. When I was young, cooking with my mom or my dad, then we would just talk, We would talk about how our day was at school, things that might have been bothering us that day. So it was a really good way for me and my parents to kind of connect and bond. And you can do the same thing with your little one. Talk about how they're feeling, talk about if they're excited to kind of try the recipe once it's done. You can also incorporate things like, do you feel happy that you're cooking? Are you excited or anxious to try and see how it turns out? Stuff like that. So cooking is a really great way to promote sensory, but also kind of the emotional development piece. So we're going to keep cooking. We're going to keep kneading this. We have about 3 more minutes, but that's okay. When you guys were growing up, let me know down in the comments on our Facebook page or through our message, if you don't want to share it publicly, what your best memories of cooking were. Especially if you did this, especially if you cooked growing up or you helped someone cook as you were growing up. Let me know. I'm really curious, and I do check, I do read the Facebook page. So if you comment, I'll know. But yeah, let me know what your favorite memories were. I know for me, my favorite memory, especially childhood, because like I mentioned, I've helped my parents cook since I was young. So my favorite memory, honestly, would have to be learning all these different recipes. I'm Vietnamese, and on my mom's side of the family, back in Vietnam, my grandparents ran a locally famous dessert shop. So my mom would teach me all their recipes, all their dessert recipes, which takes forever. And I mean, she only taught me this when I was older. So like when I was about teenage years, just because I don't know if you've ever had Vietnamese desserts, but a lot of Vietnamese desserts are super intricate, and they take forever and a day to cook. But I love it because Vietnamese desserts really don't rely on sugar. They rely on the natural sweetness of the fruit or whatever we're making. But if you guys are interested, let me know, because I do have a simple Vietnamese banana cake recipe that we actually steam, because a lot of Vietnamese desserts aren't baked or fried, especially back in the day, only because we didn't really use ovens. So it's a lot of steaming or sweet porridges. But this banana bread recipe can definitely be made at home with your little one. You have the option to bake it if you want. I like steaming it the traditional way. All right, well, we are done. So I'm gonna knead it out one more time, and then I'm gonna shape the dough. So you kind of just want to stretch it out one last time, fold it, and kind of wrap it like a little ball. Put it back in here. I'm gonna cover it, and you're gonna leave it for about an hour to an hour and a half to kind of let it double in size. Our dough has been resting for an hour and a half. Are you ready to see how big it got? Oh my goodness. So as you can see, it definitely doubled in size. And we're going to check to make sure the dough is good. So I'm going to poke a hole in the middle. And see, it didn't come back up, so that means it is ready to go. Oh, my Lanta definitely doubled in size. So we're gonna knead it out again, just a little bit. So this is the part, if you wanna make it the traditional way where it's in loaves, what you're gonna do is you're gonna split the dough in either 2 or 3. And then you're going to, if you have a bread pan at home, you're gonna shape it out. So you're gonna try to flatten it as much as you can. And then you're gonna fold it once, twice, kind of flatten it out again a little bit, and then roll it the other way. And then you're gonna place it, pretend this is a bread pan, you're gonna place it like so. But we are gonna be making them into little rolls. So this recipe is great because you can either split them by 12, or if you want them even minier dinner rolls, then you can do by 16. So I'm gonna be doing by 16. I have this tray here that I filled with parchment paper. This is a little big, but this is the only one that I had on hand. Usually I use a 9x9 tray. If you don't have that, sometimes what I like to do is do like I'll have to do like 2 separate trays. So I'm trying to split the dough into 16 equal parts, which means that I'll have to divide these into 4. So if you really want to get technical, you can weigh each dough out, but I don't have a measuring, a weight here, so we are going to just eyeball it today. So again, like I said, you can do 16 or 12 mini rolls, or you can do the 2 traditional loaves, and then when you bake them, it'll come out like bread, and then you just cut it up. But we're making dinner rolls, so we're putting a spin on this. Okay, so this is 8, and now time to split this up. So like I said, this recipe is great because your little one can help you with all of these steps. If you want, while you're baking this with your little one, you can ask them to count how many bread doughs we have so far and how many more we'll need, depending on the age of your little one. All right, almost done. So like I said, we needed 16. Let's double check and make sure that there is 16 here. Ready? Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So we definitely have enough now. Some of the dough is looking a little bigger than the other, so I'm just going to transfer over some dough. And now this is where you and your little one get to have some fun. So individually, what you're going to do is you're going to roll it up into a ball and then flatten it out. And then what you do is you're going to fold the inside like this, and this dough right now is nice and smooth, so it's like a little package like this, and then on the top is gonna look like a smooth ball. And then you really want to try and pinch all of that together. So try to pinch the bottom together and then kind of roll it out. You can roll it out on your countertop, between your hands. I like to do it between my hands and really make sure that this gap isn't there. So roll, 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 roll. And then kind of smooth it out a little bit. Make it a little pretty. And then place it in there. So, how I like to tell the kids to do it is you flatten it like a pancake. Flat, flat, flat. Make sure it's flat like this. And then once you have it flat like a pancake, you fold it in. Just fold it in. And then we're gonna pinch, 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 pinch. Make sure everything's pinched like this. And then roll it into a nice smooth ball. If this is the first time your little one's doing something like this, where they're trying to make a ball, you might have to help them. But like I said, the beauty of baking, it doesn't have to be perfect. So your little one can do it, shape it however they want. And you're gonna place it in here. You're gonna definitely need to space them out a little bit because once we've rolled out everything, we are going to let it rest for another hour and a half to 2 hours. So I'm gonna finish rolling all of these up. You're gonna wanna cover the pan once you're done with either plastic wrap or a nice hot towel and let it rest for 2 hours. My friends, the bread came out of the oven a few minutes ago, and can I just say it smells so yummy in here. Look how nice it turned out. So I left it in there for just a little bit longer than 20 minutes because the oven here isn't as strong, but you really want to take it out of the oven as soon as you see a little bit of browning on the tops. But my friends, let me just show you how nice and soft it is. So thank you so much for joining me today in creating one of my favorite bread recipes. I hope you guys try this at home. I know it was a little lengthy, but I promise you it's worth it. If you double the recipe, you guys can freeze it at home and then just take it out and reheat it whenever you want to. Again, just a reminder, we're doing our virtual potluck, so if you want to leave me a recipe in our Facebook comments, in our Facebook message, or our email, please do so, and in a couple of weeks I will start filming all of our videos and we can do a virtual potluck together. Bye!